Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another review for Constellation for Apple TV Plus. If you have not already gone and checked out our non-spoiler discussion on the first 3 episodes, go and check that out right now. We've already gone through episode 4, and now we are on episode 5. This is a full breakdown and spoiler discussion. Me and Vanessa are back to talk about it. What's going on, Vanessa?
Oh, man. You know, just trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Always.
Nothing new. Nothing new.
Just more idiotic choices and some pretty cool, foolish science jargon.
Yes.
But yeah, so the beginning of this episode literally leads off right from the last one. I was gonna say we hoped. We thought that Joe killed Magnus, her husband, but he was still breathing, thankfully, I guess. And from that point, she decides, let me weigh my odds. Do I go and trust Frederick with this? Do I call the police? Or let me just go and just steal my daughter and just run off? Just from that point, go to the lab and just pick up this device because, oh, wow, I can connect something with this device to what's going on. But I don't really know, and I'm just going to go and just hightail it out of here. And then they open the credits. So for you, like, now that we know full circle how we got to where we got from the first episode, did you think that she kind of like initially going to the first episode, you thought that there was a little bit more threads in between, or she was just going to make a lateral and just say, screw it all, I'm just going to take everybody and go? What was your thought?
I did think that she was going to, like we talked about before, I thought she was going to like reach out to Henry. Now I've actually figured out finally by episode 5 which is Henry and which is Bud. Henry is the scientist, the mean scientist, and Bud is the alcoholic who goes on cruise tours. So now that it was established, I thought she was going to reach out to Henry and be like, hey, I saw this, like talk to him or something, and then he would like give it to her. Now that we know how he is about it, that wasn't logical. He would never give it to her willingly. Right. So this was the only logical way she was going to get it, and I'm glad she did, because otherwise she would not have all the proof she needs, basically. Like, but she kind of just went boom, 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 let's go. I personally am glad she didn't kill her husband, because this would complicate things a lot more. But right now, the fact that NASA or whatever, all the space people, they're trying to keep this under wraps because of all the drama that happened with the last, vitamin B people had, so they end up in the news and stuff. So they're trying to keep this hush hush. So he literally told them, like Frederick told Magnus, like if you go out with the police, like this will leak somehow. So they're trying to keep it under wraps. So them trying to keep it under wraps actually helps her, because that means she can move in silence and move, the way she wants to. But it's getting wild. It's getting more and more wild. But I'm glad that we're actually finally in full circle, so we can like start getting to the actual story.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been story, but like now we're at the present, basically.
Yeah, we are. Was it Arrow season 4, season 3? I can't remember. Whichever one was the one where it caught up with the timeline. We are caught up with the timeline by the end of this episode.
Yes, you've been invoking Arrow a lot, and I wish you would stop.
Why? What? Wait, what? You hate Arrow? What? Okay.
Yes. Any real true Green Arrow fan hates the Arrow show. Don't let me get started, Sam. Don't. Because I will. I'll go off.
It's taking every part of me to not. You know what?
We can have a discussion another time.
I'm gonna let it go. Off camera, probably. I mean, maybe like we'll have like a legit uncensored conversation on Patreon. There you go. That's a shameless plug. But anyway, the thing about this for me is her. There are times where she makes some really great decisions. Like she's really thinking about it and processing it. But it was kind of like she made a knee-jerk reaction to just go and get what she needed and just dip. And I kind of was thinking to myself, I was like, why did you put your daughter in this kind of situation? Because now she has to choose what to believe. She's already dealing with her own mental issues when it comes to what she's seen. And then the other side of that, she's making her daughter choose between her dad and her. And her daughter doesn't really trust her, rightfully so. And technically, whether Magnus died or not, like it technically ain't even her husband. But we'll
or daughter.
We'll get to all that a little bit later on because she makes some more risque decisions at the end of this episode. But anyway, I digress. So we kind of fast forward to kind of her getting her to a diner right before they were going to a ferry. And at the diner, they were kind of having like some real good conversation. And it seemed like the daughter just was not, she didn't want to talk about it. And she finally cornered her daughter and asked her, like, what are you seeing? Like, what was it? And she kind of labeled it, it's a woman. And, you know, she was like, can you draw it for me? And she's like, I guess. And she was like, I'll draw it for me and you draw it for me and we'll go from there. But she got a call. I don't know if she called Frederick or she got a call from Frederick. Either way, they ended up on a conversation with Frederick and Magnus.
She called Magnus.
And Frederick intercepted because Magnus
foolish. He was, yeah, because he had called, yeah.
Had still got this man in his house. Like, I'm just like, what do you, anyway. He goes and talks to her and it's like, you need help. Like, and then Frederick picks up the phone, like, look, you better get here right now. I'm about to oust you and you're gonna lose everything, essentially. And
hold on there, but right before that, she thought she was going crazy because she looked up the people that sent her the tapes and saw the news article that said these people were crazy and not the cuckoo. So that was starting to put doubt in her mind. And that's when she called Magnus. And then Frederick was like, oh, you know, and then, all right, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think I'm looping in time. I think like, I'm not catching it. Did you see that? That was weird.
No.
I didn't. Okay, anyway, whatever. There was something that she asked him, and it was about the pills. And she basically asked, did you know about the pills? And he just had this kind of like pause, like, yeah, your vitamins. She was like, oh, you knew what they're giving me. And she blatantly said, like, yo, you know this is lithium, right? And she's like, why would they be doing that? He kept on deflecting and deflecting. And then she was like, can I please talk to my husband? He was like, no, you need to come in. And the more she was kind of like, oh, I don't have anything to lose. He was kind of like, no. And so now it was a situation where how much does Frederick know? We still really don't really know the depths of it outside of that conversation he had with Henry, because he's kind of got Henry under a vice as well. But my question to you is, like, is this government using Henry to kind of control or mitigate the situation? Because their conversations with the old brother and sister leads us down this road where this has been happening. And it's like they've been continuously trying to silence people of what's going on. So I'm going to ask you, do you think the government knows what's going on, but they can't do anything about it? Like, why did they put so much emphasis on Henry's project, all for them to kind of say, well, you can't prove it, so let's lick it, but I want it back, kind of thing. I don't know. I was curious your perspective on it.
I definitely think they know something's up. People are going missing. People are going crazy, but they're just like either not willing to dig into it or whatever. But they've obviously gave Henry some leeway to like do the experiment. We don't know how long those people were up there, but we do know that there was no chance that they're going up there because of political differences between the countries that were involved. They're not. He said that they're never going to be able to go back up there and do this experiment again. So that's why it was so important. I think they were like, this is your one shot. You know, this didn't work, so it's done. You're done. So this seemed to be his like one last chance to like prove that what happened to him. He has no other proof besides his own word and experience that something is different. But besides other people who've experienced it, but all those other people were labeled as insane, and in Elena as like a vested interest in making sure this all goes away and stays quiet because her counterpart, the one who actually is from that earth or world or reality, is dead. So actually, you know, and we don't know if she killed her or not. So I do think that there, at some level, the government knows, but I don't know how much. Yeah.
So initially, I'd always thought it was the device that caused all this, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like the device, more than anything, is bridging the gap. Like it's allowing for the conversation and the connection to actually be made. Because I thought this whole entire time it was a device, but it seems like it's just happening, period. But my question to you is how? Like, what's your theories on how it's actually happening? Because if it was a device, it makes sense, but it's not.
Right. Because that wasn't the first time they had turned on the device. Like Lancaster had been using, like had been turning it on the whole time. Like that's the experiment. That was what they were up for. So I don't think that was causing it. I think that thing is allowing them to communicate, or like allowing the two things to be in one space more clearly, like they've talked about. I don't know why. The only theory I have is that there's like somehow there was a tear or like a rip between our universes, or between the two universes, so like somehow they were able to cross over, but it's only happening up there in space. Like that's what it appears to be. So I don't know exactly what, and I'm sure they'll maybe explain some sciencey reason why this is happening. I don't know, but I have no idea. It could be anything.
Did the older, I keep calling them older couple, the older brother and sister, didn't they say like it was like a certain amount of years, like every 10 years? How many years did they say?
I cannot remember.
A year that continuously happens where somebody sees a quote unquote angel, and then it kind of goes from there.
I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah.
Anyway.
But we didn't talk about the daughter's drawing.
Yeah, I was yeah. So then she goes back and sees the daughter's drawing, and she was like, where did you see this? Like, what I never told you about this. And she basically was like, no, this is the person that's been talking to me. And she, from that point on, you couldn't tell her nothing. Like she went and told them like, look, Magnus, I gotta go. Frederick, hold your breath and back down, because, you know, and then she left with, and Magnus on his end is still trusting Frederick. And I cannot understand why. I get that he can't make sense of why his wife seemingly is having a mental emotional breakdown. But why would you trust the person that you know full well you can't trust? Like, I don't know. It's like a desperation thing. I get it. But it's so many other people that he probably could have talked to as opposed to Frederick. Like, I don't know. I think that bothers me more than anything. Like, Magnus just doesn't make good decisions. Like, he doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, from there, they go and head on the road. And I can't remember how they ended up going to the couple. How did they get there? They had to go through the ferry. Was that it?
Yes, they drove. Yeah, they had like went through that like checkpoint, and then they drove through the the gate. She like called one of her fellow, like her team members, to like get him on the path,
right,
of like searching for the medicine, which alerted that Russian lady, the Irena or whatever. So like, yeah, I think. Oh, one thing I was gonna say, we talked about it last episode or an episode. Yeah, when Henry and Irena were like giving kissy faces, and he saw the skeleton or like the ghost or whatever. That I remember saying, like, what if the other Irena, you could still, like, what if she's able to still shift, and that's why she's dying of cancer, and like that's what's slowly killing her, is that because every person is still connected with their counterpart, even if they're dead. And because she's saying, the little girl's saying she's seeing her and she's talking to her, I wonder if she's literally seeing her ghost. I'm wondering if she's still tethered to this like reality, because somehow they're still connected. Because that's how we keep seeing this ghost lady. Her body crashing into the thing. Like, I'm wondering if we're literally seeing a ghost. Like, they're being haunted by this lady because she's still connected. Like they can switch bodies. Like Henry and Bud can switch bodies. I wonder if she's trying to switch with Irena to like it's just like my brain is like, because if she's trying to communicate with Alice, why? You know, who's talking to Alice? Is it the ghost? Like, is it? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. Like, that's
no, that is
theory.
That is a dope freaking theory. Yeah, I don't know. And the interesting thing is that at this current time, like Henry and Raina have been doing this for years. Joe is just still trying to get her bearings, and technically Alice too. And they haven't completely controlled it yet. I think Alice has done it more than Joe has, to be honest with you. Like every small little moment, she's going somewhere different. But no, I think that's a really dope theory. We got to talk.
No one if it's happening to Paul, you know, because Paul's a counterpart's dead. You know, Paul on the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Man, there's so much to uncover. Let's talk about real quick though the other astronaut that kind of wanted to help dig in for her and kind of believes her, and he went to the library to go and check out the information about the medication, and come to find out they're redacting it. But before the lady did, she called up somebody, got around to come get her and intercept him. And I'm like, that just gave him the proof that he needed to know there's something that's going on. So now she has someone at least on her side, but can't help, because the more he continues to pry, the more he put his life in jeopardy. But yeah, let's go fast forward to Bud and Henry. Their relationship is very toxic and very dangerous, because Henry, like you said, he's a grumpy old man, but he's a good soul scientist, right? Bud is not. Bud will kill you. Bud is one of those vindictive types, and he is basically haunting Henry, like haunting to the point where, you know, he was having a conversation. Henry was having a conversation with Frederick, and he was like, "No, I didn't do this. I need help," and basically made him pee himself in front of this man, and basically possessed him. Like, I don't know if is that how you look at it? Like, it's almost like he's intentionally possessing this man anytime he wants to. I don't know how he can control it, but
it does feel like they're sharing the same, like they can swap bodies, but it feels like possession. Like you're not in control of your body. Like they're able to move at will. And he said, when did you stop taking your pills? Which means he was only able to do that when he's taking those lithium pills. So remember, he threw them into the sea. So now he's not taking them, and Henry stopped taking them a while ago. So now they're like fighting back and forth, and that's kind of terrifying. But that's why I was like, that's like what lends into the theory of like each counterpart can like share or like swap like realities, and it's so weird. Yeah,
because it's their bodies and their realities. And the weird thing was that Bud did, I can't remember if it was Bud or Henry. I think it was Bud. Bud went and wrote like "Leave me alone," but it showed up backwards on Henry's mirror after he took the shower. And it was so weird. So they're interfacing physically in each other's reality while also at the same time swapping bodies. So freaking weird. But I love Jonathan's performance. Like, he's killing it, man. Like, he is doing such a good job for those two roles. And you can tell there's a distinct difference. They don't feel like the same person at all.
No, I agree. But the way they like smile and like the way they carry themselves, like Henry seems more put together, and Bud is a drunk.
Yeah, he's terrifying. Like, I think, matter of fact, last episode when she went and saw, you know, who she thought was Henry, that was actually Bud. That was Bud when he kind of looked at her and was like, "Curiosity killed the cat." I think that was Bud. I don't think that was Henry. So they had swapped.
I know. It was like a play thing. Like I was like, wait a minute, who killed who? So now I'm thinking, yeah, maybe Bud did kill him. Bud got
angry. Oh yeah, Bud definitely iced that.
But I thought it was Henry because the way they like the little thing. But I think that was just like a red herring, like a trick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there are times where Henry gets stuck over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. We really don't know. But anyway, I digress. So from there, they go and visit the brother and sister, and the brother's like, no, get out. Call the police. Get him out. Get him out.
Right.
And the sister's like, look, man, I'm 80-something years old. If you really feel threatened by me, kick me in the back. I promise you.
I know, she's so funny.
But I had an issue with this whole entire point of this because Joe sought them out, knowing full well she's putting herself at risk doing that, putting them at risk doing that, and putting more than anything her daughter at risk. And now I didn't want her to leave her daughter in the car, but I questioned why she took her daughter to begin with. What it would have actually been better if you already knew you were calling the police for Magnus and the police were going to intercept him and you knew for a fact she would still be safe. Why take the daughter anyway? And I mean, I know there's a lot to talk about with the two brother and sister, but I wanted your perspective. Why did she take her daughter from jump? Did she want to get information from her daughter, or was she trying to protect her daughter, or was she not thinking? It's one of the three.
I think well, I don't think she wants information because I don't think she knew at that point that she had anything. I think she just, like any mom would take her kid with her. Like I would probably, if I was in a situation, I'm taking my kid with me. Like at the end of the day, like I don't know what's going on. If she doesn't know, like, but I want to make sure that if someone's going to protect my kid, I don't know if they're like against me. I don't know who's trying to. I don't want them to take my kid. I don't want them to drug my daughter. Like I don't want to be separated from my kid. I can understand her perspective. Like, yes, she's not thinking clearly. She's not thinking clearly. Like she's experiencing two different realities at once, and people are lying to her about it. But yeah. I understand, like, as a mother, like I get why she didn't want to leave her daughter behind, especially when she didn't. Like Magnus is just like laying around there. Like obviously he's alive, but she didn't know the extent of his injuries yet. May have gone to the hospital. And then she just leaves her daughter by herself, like. And then what if her daughter gets put in custody, like because one parent's in the hospital and the other parent's missing? Like I understand her perspective. I get why I would have done the same thing. Like I don't think she's crazy for taking her daughter. Now, I do think that like some of the situations she's being put in, like it's obviously like not the greatest, but that's the name of the game. Like but I wouldn't have left my daughter either. I don't think I would have left my kid. But I also don't think she's like thinks like anyone's in danger. I think she's just trying to find answers. And I think at one point she probably would have taken Alice back, but because Alice was seeing that thing, she was like, okay, now that we're experiencing something similar, I need to figure out what's going on. Because if she starts to worry like, oh, I saw the cosmonaut too. What if they introduce her, make her daughters her like taking lithium? You know, as a mom, I get it. I get why she's so concerned and wanted to keep her kid with her.
Yeah, I think when we got to the older couple and you know she read the article, I mean it's a 50-50 chance that they may actually be psychopaths.
Right.
And you're bringing
your old daughter, you could definitely take an old person.
Yeah, but like you don't have to, because at the point that they went on the boat with the older lady, I was like, why did you bring your daughter? My head goes, why did you bring your daughter? Because even technically, to me, at the point that you got the understanding, like, oh man, my daughter's seeing this, I need to get answers to protect her. Maybe I need to call Magnus, let him know, pick her up at the diner, and we move forward with this because she's absolutely scared. I don't know how she's connected with this, but I think for me, like, she's putting herself at risk, but she's also putting her daughter. Like that's where my head goes. My head goes, the more deeper she goes to this, the more she's untethered to reality, the more it's more risk for the daughter. But we'll get to the end of the episode in a second. But I think when we got to the boat, I was like, her daughter shouldn't be there. Like, I mean, I guess it works out later on in the car that they got to. It worked towards something. But to me, realistically, I don't think it was a good idea. But while they were talking to the brother and the sister, you know, they started kind of unpacking, you know, that every 10 years that this was happening, and they were seeing like angels. And then the other part about it is when they got on the boat, she was like, you have to be in this in-between space to be able to clearly hear it. And that was the only way to make it. Yep. And you know, she was playing the tapes, and I was like, Joe, like, why are you so upset? Like, I get the fear side of it, but you went there to get answers. Like, at least, like, allow the woman to tell you what she's trying to tell you. And then the other side of it, the daughter keeps, and I know that life. Like, when your kid starts yelling at that point you tuning out. Like, you know what? It's fun. I don't want them to get freaked out. It's not there. Don't worry, sweetie. Like, I get it. But at that point, she got confirmation that this lady knows for a fact that there's other stuff going on. And it was so creepy, but at the same time was finally giving us real answers to the consequence. Fast forward to them going and leaving, and the woman giving her all the tapes. I'm fearing for those two, their lives after they left. I think she probably, but they got in the car, and the little girl finally kind of calmed down, and she was kind of asking about, like, the voice, and they used like the metaphor of like, you tell me one secret, I give you a secret, and they started kind of giving each other like the actual truths that they needed to get, which is a really good scene. But then when it got to the little girl about the voice, she was kind of like, I wish I could hear it. Like, that's what Joe said. I wish I could hear what the voice actually sounds like so we could make a comparison. And so then the little girl found the tape, and sure enough, the little girl was like, no, that's her. But the creepier thing is that when the cassette is close to the actual device, it is completely clear. And so that whole setup from the boat to that was, I think, genius. I don't know. What was your take on something?
It was good. It was brilliant. I love the way the exposition of like all the information that we got was well laid out. Like, it wasn't like, oh, just a block of someone just talking the whole time. It was like a really well laid out kind of figuring out what was going on. The thing is called a CAL, the Cold Atomic Lab, and it's required to be in a cold space, so she keeps it in freezer, which makes sense. She would go to a cold cabin in the middle of nowhere. That actually explains a lot. Why I was like, at first I was like, why, like, the winter, like, you could have gone anywhere. So now it makes sense that they would stay somewhere that's just naturally cold. The daughter is definitely freaked out for a lot of reasons. I think obviously she's scared and she wants everything to go back to normal, but I think she's getting freaked out because she's getting more and more evidence that this woman is not her mother. Yeah. And especially at the end of the episode, we can talk about it a little bit more in a second, but she's just like realizing, okay, this isn't I don't like this. This is scary, because the more confirmation you realize, the more confirmation is like, oh, I'm being kidnapped because this is not my mother. Like, right. That's scary. I think that's why she's like, stop. Let's not do this anymore. I don't want any more, like, but at the end of the day, like, that, especially after she found out that the drawing was the dead cosmonaut, like, that bell cannot be unrung. Like, she's going to keep wanting to find answers, especially now. She's going to be like, why are you in it? Why are you involved? You know what I mean? So I think that, yeah, I thought it was just really well done. I feel bad for the old twins. Like, they, yeah, they're gonna die. Or they're gonna get, like, I don't know. I'm worried about it because they've been getting tussled with, the government's been tussling with them for years. So at this point, they could be like, you know what, you're old. You've been messing with us for too long, and they could just flood their house with carbon monoxide or something and kill them in their sleep. Like, I just don't think that they're gonna be alive for much longer. But no, I think that I'm glad we're finally getting to the beginning of the episode 1. Like, we're there almost at this point.
Yeah, so we're finally there because now, she's, listening to the different tapes, and the little girl's getting more and more freaked out. And, we know how the first episode goes, where she sees her other daughter, she sees that daughter, and then she knows that there's 2 different daughters, and she starts to go crazy because she needs to go and try to find them. So she goes to one cabin and comes back, and then she hears her daughter out. And then she goes and says, hey, other daughter, let's roll. And the other thing about it is, before they even got to the cabin, she knew full well. I was like, oh, wow, this is blocked off. This is weird. It's not what I remember. And then the little girl was like, no, it's this cabin. This is the right way to go. She's like, no. We'll just drive on the ice. We do it all the time. Bro, like, no. No, that's go ahead.
I genuinely have a deep, not to interrupt, I genuinely have a deep fear. Like, in my gut, I was like, I don't like this. I don't even like to see it. I don't want to see people driving on ice. I don't want to see people walking on ice, because I know what's going to happen next. I'm going to plunge into the darkness below. The deep waters are as scary as space, and it's insane. We're about to get a visual in the upcoming episode where someone plunges through space, probably Joe, and she's going to be like, she's gonna fling back to space where the other Joe might be, and then just gonna be these parallels of space in her in the deep. I just know it. As soon as she said, "Oh, this is Will's driver of the ice," I was like, "No, someone's going under the ice." I can already tell. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
I think I'm just blown because from the first episode to, of course, this episode, she keeps putting her daughter or her second daughter or other daughter, whatever she is to her
daughter ganger.
And she don't care, bro. She don't care. And it bugs me out. Like, you took this, like, first off, kids don't ask to come into the world. But then you're going willingly, taking your daughter and putting her through this. And even if you believe it's not your daughter, it's still not right. And I'm like, why would you put this girl on this ice like this? And so that blew me. And so I'm pissed at Joe and I'm pissed at Magnus. Like, and I feel for
bad parent
more than anything. Like, she's trying to make sense of all this. And at this point now, she's realizing, like, my mom is abandoning me for another me that I seen crushing my bunny. Like, it's like I don't know who this other chick is, but I don't like her. And so, yeah, that pretty much is kind of how the episode ends, with Alice yelling out to her mom, even though she knows full well it's not her mom at this point. She's still calling for her help, and it's pretty sad. It's pretty messed up. Hopefully one of the Alices don't die. I'm terrified of that more than anything in this show. I don't want the little girl to suffer for this whole situation. I really don't.
Yeah.
But yeah. Any do we miss anything? Closing thoughts?
No, yeah, because it was actually clever the way they did that last scene where she was listening to the tapes next to the cow when they got to the cabin. And I don't know if you remember, but the first episode, we actually, I think when she's hearing it, like, we open up with the episode, it literally plays the way the episode goes. They're talking on, the iPad, and she's like, "Oh, blah, 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 that's a cow." She's like, "Oh, what's that?" She's like, "I don't know." And then when it started going, it clicks back over to the cabin. They did the same, like, an opposite version of that in the first episode, where we see the experience and then it clicks back to the cabin, and we're like, what the heck is going on? Why is she in this cabin? And they just did the opposite in this episode. I was like, that's so good. That's so clever. So clever, because then we now get context for her being like, that wasn't me. When Alice from this reality goes, that wasn't me. I don't speak Swedish. And we've been getting clues the entire season that she doesn't speak Swedish. And she's like, Mom, I don't speak Swedish. And literally the look on Joe's face is like, whoa. And then we see another Alice running. So I think that's her Alice. But, like, this is really where I'm excited to see the next episode, because this is really where we now get really confirmation that Joe and Alice, this Joe and Alice know that they don't belong with each other. So I'm excited. I'm interested to see how Alice kind of processes this. Yeah, this was a really good episode. It was wild. So much happened, but it needed to happen so that we could get to this point where we're now basically caught up to the present. And that was such a clever way for them to show where we were, like catching up to the first episode. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a really dope intersection. Now we are finally where we need to be. Yeah, this is a good episode. I mean, I'm pissed at Magnus. I could care less about Frederick. I'm creeped out by Bud. I feel sorry for Henry. Feel sorry for Alice, and I'm pissed at Joe. But this is still an A nonetheless. And I'm excited to see where we're gonna go from here. Closing thoughts and rating.
I would say I love this episode. Really, really good episode. A. I would give it an A. I don't think I've given it anything less than an A so far. Everything's just very clever. Everything that they've done is clever. Even though I'm like, why would you do this? Why would you do that? Questions are answered sort of, or I get like kind of context for why I'm like, it's all good. Yeah, I'm excited for the next episode.
Yeah. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. But before I go, I'm gonna let you plug.
Yay.
Please plug.
All right. My name is Vanessa. You can follow me at Vanessa Shark. Stop it. At Vanessa Shark on everything: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I have a website, vanessashark.com, that I occasionally update. I write for multiverseofcolor.com. I have a recent interview with N.K. Jemisin and John Ridley up on the site. And I have another one with John Ridley and Edwin Galman coming soon. And then hopefully some other stuff in the thingy thing. So, yay.
Thing. Anywho, we're gonna go. Peace, people. Until episode. We got 6, right? Next
6, yeah.
All right. Later, guys.
Falling off the top of